going on? Um, what's going on in your lives? Just shoot some wins at me that we can all get re-energized with. Anyone?
I'll go. I just had the brother-in-law of one of the people I go to church with reached out to me yesterday and has 3 2.5-acre lots that he is interested in having me list, and I might already have a buyer that of my own that has been looking for exactly that thing. So I'm hoping to make a match with that. If it works, that'd be great. So that's a win.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, because that goes right in line with what we're going to be talking about today. So thank you for that. Anyone else?
I think our team actually talked a lot about just having a time to regroup and relax this past weekend was a win. Feeling like you had a chance to re-energize and come back into the beginning of Q3 ready to go.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there was a lot of, how do we call it? Just worn out people there for a little while. And it's like we're catching our second win for the third part of the year, the third quarter of the year. So yeah, I think we're all kind of going through that. That's good. Well, if you guys don't know me, I am Laura Castillo. I'm the expansion partner, team leader in Midland, Odessa area. My team and I have, for the past 4 years, been closing an average of 200 to 250 homes. It just depends on the year. Much smaller over here, so not Austin sized. And I've been in real estate for 12 years. And like Adelina said in the invitation, I've kind of done it all. I led the market center. I've done a huge productivity program. So I've kind of experienced all the roles in real estate that there are to experience, except the lending world, and I don't want to go there. So today I want to talk to you about something that I think is very important in any business that you decide to own or to start, and that's having a sphere of influence and a database. Cold calling and having leads that you buy, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think we've all done it to some extent. But if you want a long-term business, a business that's going to be sustainable and eventually just kind of works on its own, you want to dedicate your energy to having a database that you systematically and consistently communicate with. And like I said, I don't have a pretty presentation to go with slides on this. So you guys are going to have to take really, really good notes. And if you can, pull out a calculator so you can work some math with me. Because we're going to talk about something that I think will help, and I hope will help a lot of you open your eyes a little bit about the amount of money that is being left on the table when you don't take your database and your sphere of influence seriously. So one of the things that we ask of you when you first join the Ben Kinney team is to add 200 names to the database. In fact, I think that is a prerequisite of joining the Ben Kinney team. That's something we're supposed to have done before we even sign joining documents. And why 200? I'm going to walk you through some math that's hopefully going to help you put it into context. And some of my facts may be a little dated, and some of them might have changed since the last time I read the MREA, and Ben has been sharing numbers with us. But I think the gist of it is the same. So the first note that I want you to write down is this ratio of 12 to 2. And if it's an old concept to you, just go with it. Just it'll help you to refreshen it in your brain. But the ratio of 12 to 2 is this. According to the MREA, for every 12 people in your database that you systematically and consistently, write those two words, systematically and consistently, communicate with throughout the year, you should yield 2 closings. And I feel like this is a really important distinction to make on the two closings. Why don't you just say a 6-to-1 ratio? Well, the reason we say a 12-to-2 is because for every 12 people, you're going to have one person that says, great timing, Laura. You called me at the right time. I'm fixing to move. I need to sell my house. The other person's going to say, funny you should ask. I was just at dinner with a friend last week and they mentioned that they are buying their first home. So one is going to be direct and one is going to be indirect. Okay. So that's a 12-to-2 ratio of your database. So if you do what you are taught with the Benkini systems, and you have your 200 people in there and you systematically and consistently communicate with them, take that 200 and divide it by 6 for me real quick. What does that come out to?
33.
33 units. Okay, I am going to go with an average agent commission in your pocket of $5,000 because I know we're a big state and we have different price ranges. For you in Austin and Dallas area, you probably have a higher average per agent commission check. We'll just go with 5,000 because that's what my agents are on average making here. Sound fair? So 33 closings times 5,000. What does that come out to?
166, 666.
$166,000 that you could potentially make in your first year of real estate. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of freaking money. The average attorney in the United States makes $140,000. The average middle ranking ER doctor across the United States makes $88,000 to $125,000. So I don't know if you guys get the gist of how important these numbers are, in that you are sitting, when we tell you, well, we want you to add 200 names to the database, it's not just so that Adelina can grow the database of the Benkini team Austin, or that Laura can grow the database of the BKT Midland. It's so that you are positioned to potentially make this much money in year one. Year one, guys. What is your initial investment when you get your license?
Total, like less than 1,500 probably.
Yeah, if you do your classes online, you're probably spending less than 1,500. If you decide to go to a fancy school where you sit and finish it, you might spend 3,500 once you join the board and whatnot. But let's just say that for whatever reason, someone was not super wise with their money and they spent $5,000 between getting their license, paying for their board fees and whatever else. Maybe they had some really fancy glow in the dark science or whatever. But let's just say that you spent $5,000 getting ready to sell real estate, and you made $165,000 your first year because you actually listened and you did the work and you put your 200 names in your database and you followed the model of touch systems that we have in place. What is the return on investment on that, guys? Like, I don't know of any other business that pays you back what you put into it in year one with massive profit.
I mean, you're talking over 150,000 year one in return if you follow it.
Yeah. I don't even know what that calculates to in percentages, but that's a lot of freaking profit. And the awesome thing about a database, guys, is it will keep doing it year after year after year after year for the rest of your life. And I'm here to tell you, the person who runs a successful database plan will have a much easier business than the person who is constantly fishing for where the next business is going to come from, their next piece of business is going to come from. So I'm not saying don't do the other things. Of course, do the other things, but that should be your icing on the cake. If you want easy business for the long run, because we're not here, and I hope you didn't get your license just because someone said it was exciting and it was doing really, really good and everybody's making a ton of money, and you actually want to be here 5 years down the road. The way that you do this long term, like Adelina and myself and Brandon and Casey and all those people that have been in it for years, Judy, and not burn out, is by having business come to you. And the way that you have business come to you is when you train your people to send it your way. Judy is my top agent in Midland, and Judy's 75% of her business is sphere of influence database. So that's a little bit of math around the cost of not keeping a database or not working it, or the value of it if you are doing it. So what are some thoughts going through your head?
Hey, Laura, I have a question for you. Good morning, by the way.
Morning.
So what would you recommend for somebody who might be new to the city that they partnered with us at? Say San Antonio, for example. Brought 200 Sphere. A lot of them are out of the area, so obviously we're digging for referrals. But maybe someone who doesn't have a Sphere locally. How would you recommend, or how have you done it in the past in a new area where you got to build it, right? Because we have the pieces of the pie to build the puzzle, but for Sphere specifically, what would you recommend someone could do to like create one in essence in a new city?
So you're talking about creating a brand new one, not using their existing one, because maybe it's not local, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's a few things that I encourage my agents to do, and this is where the other pieces of the pie come in. You know, the open houses, the door knocking. In my opinion, when I started in real estate 12 years ago, I was in Lubbock, Texas, and the only other person I knew was my husband and my son, and my broker. But my broker was not going to send me any business. So I got out and started making friends right away, because we're all social by nature, most of us anyway, to some degree. Not maybe we don't all like to go to big parties every night, but to some degree, we have a basic human need to connect with others. So I was just a lot more purposeful with that at the beginning, attending any event. I connected with a church right away. I've been doing a bridal show that we can later talk about for a long time. And I've met so many people through that bridal show that I've just become really good friends. Putting it together, even like the people that helped me put it together at the city and the local vendors. Develop your relationships with your lenders, your title companies, your insurance people. Most of those people are going to be happy to buy you lunch anyway, because they're looking for the same thing you were looking for, growing their sphere. So make those connections and add those people to your database. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking those people for their business. I take flight lessons, for instance. And one day I was just running really low on people to call, and I texted the owner of the flight school, and I was like, "Hey, Flores, I'm texting you about business today. I don't want to come in for a lesson, but who do you know that might want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? I got to pay for these lessons somehow." And he just kind of laughed, and he was like, "Actually, my wife and I have been thinking of investing. So what do you think about that?" I was like, "Let's go have a cup of coffee and talk about it." And they ended up buying a rental house from me in like the next 6 weeks. So you will have to be purposeful in adding those people to the database. If you want a systematic recipe for it, I say make a goal for yourself of adding 10 new names every day. If they're not super good friends, then make it a point to become good friends with them. Because you can be purposeful about everything. I also would challenge you. Go ahead, Judy.
Hey, I was just gonna kind of tag onto it as well. Brandon, like coming into a new area, especially if it's someone that has kids moving or relocating to a new area. I use my kids events a lot. So if if it's a new team and I don't know anybody, you got guarantee I'm going to be wearing a place or a Keller hat or a shirt. And if I'm ever running late because I'm at a showing, bringing that up, but just making sure that anybody around, and I've actually picked up several clients from my kids' softball teams or soccer teams that, I mean, one of them contacted me on via Facebook saying, hey, I'm going through a divorce and need to sell my house. Like, I know you sell real estate. Can you help? And so just any activity where you're going to be in front of people or in large groups of people, just making sure no one in that group doesn't know that you sell real estate. Especially if you're meeting new, like Laura was talking about, meeting new people and being around people, but just kids they drive us crazy sometimes and keep us busy. I'm driving to a softball tournament right now, but just knowing that anytime you're in those big groups, just making sure everyone around you and everyone that's going to see you knows that you're in real estate and make those connections there too.
Yeah. I think I push really hard on my team that you should never leave a conversation with anyone anywhere without them knowing what you do. And sometimes it takes asking them what they do. That to me, when I asked someone if I were to meet Sharon out on the street and we got to talking and I said, well, what do you do for a living? Guess what her natural response is going to be? I do this. What do you do? And then I get to shine. Also, another thing, when you're out meeting people, don't leave it up to them to contact you. I've made that mistake several times. Always you gather their information. But I'm going to challenge you guys to fight that limiting belief that you don't know enough people. We have a basic human need to connect. And I bet you within the first 2 weeks of getting to a new town, even if you didn't know anyone, within 2 weeks of that, you already have 50 or 60 people that you could add to that database. I'm going to challenge you to think differently on that, because we have a natural want to connect as human beings. And we have basic needs that we're going to look for things like dentist. Everybody needs a dentist, family care practitioners, hair care. No better way to connect women out there than befriending your hairstylist. They know absolutely everybody. Does that help you, Brandon, a little bit? I mean, there's a gazillion ways, really. The bottom line is get out there in the community and get to meeting people and saving their info.
Yeah, very helpful. I love that. We have people on our team, some from here, some not. I started in Austin with no sphere, but I love what it comes back down to, and thanks, Judy, for sharing as well. You just have to get out there and make contacts, right? And I think what we forget a lot of the time is to then take that contact, add it to our database so that we can follow up systematically and consistently. So I love that. And I really like what Ben says a lot of the time. And I think I might have heard you say this before too, to your point about the dentist and the doctor. Like if they know you're in real estate and they're not working with you or sending you business, find another doctor or a dentist or another hairstylist, right? And it sounds kind of harsh at first, but the first time I heard Ben say that, I was like, oh yeah, well, if you're really having conversations with them, they should know what you do. Don't be a secret agent.
And the same thing for your lenders, guys. Like, yeah, I know they know another 900 realtors in town, but they should at least be making an attempt. If you send them business regularly, they should at least be making an attempt to pay that back to you. But don't discount them either. When you're working your database, don't leave them out of things that you do for your sphere of influence. Include them in that. They need to feel like they're part of your circle. All right, I'm going to talk to you guys about something else that I think is really, really important. The 200 people, I get this all the time. Laura, I just moved to Midland. I don't know anybody. There's no sense in me adding those 200 people because they're in Houston. Well, guess what? People from Houston and Midland move back and forth every single day because they're both oil field towns. So how nice would it be for you to close 33 referrals? 25% of 5,000 is what? 1,250, something like that. $1,250. So if you take that times 33, that's like $35,000 for making a phone call, picking up the phone and saying, hey, Brandon, I've got someone moving to San Antonio, or I've got someone buying their first house in San Antonio. And if you're a first-year agent, $35,000 pays a lot of bills. So even if it's not local, guys, the value of your database, even for referrals, is huge. There are some agents out there that don't make $35,000 ever, not in their first year, but ever. So let me read some of the comments because some of them were really good. Jennifer says, I've closed 2 million in TikTok leads this year. It's for sure humiliating, pero money talks. Yep, I am with you, girl. I am right there with you. I am not above that or anything else. So let's talk about what does systematically mean. The old MREA, and I have not read the new one, so I don't know if this has changed, but the old MREA says you have to touch your database 33 times during the year. The MREA also says that two of them, at least two of them, have to be phone calls. This is what I do for my business. I don't think I get through the 33 touches. I may get close to that, but I do get for sure to 18, and I'll talk to you about those 18. 2 phone calls a year. One at the end of the year. I usually use the excuse of inviting them to our Christmas photo shoot that we do for our sphere of influence and past clients. You can do whatever. You can call to wish them Merry Christmas or Happy New Year or whatever. Mid-year, for if I have a summer event going on, then I use the invite to that summer event. If not, then maybe just wish them a happy 4th of July or something like that. Sometimes it's just because there's something important going on in the market, like when the rates dropped super low, that was my call. Hey, I don't know if anybody has talked to you about this, but you need to get your head on refinancing, and they appreciate those phone calls. So that's 2 touches right there, my 2 phone calls. The next 4 are quarterly market updates. My market updates are quarterly, and they're printed in a postcard about yay big, not in envelopes. Very visible, very branded, something that they can look, see, make a connection. Laura sent me this in the 2 seconds that they take to sort it over the trash can, because that's about as much time as I have. So I don't think anybody's going to be keeping the market statistic postcards and hanging them on their fridge. So my postcard with the market statistics is designed to capture their attention in that 2 or 3 seconds that they have it in front of them. And it's really basic. This is how many homes have sold year to date. This is the average price point in Midland. This is, or their neighborhood, if I'm being specific to their neighborhood. Just thought you'd like to know what's going on in the market. Super simple. 4 times a year, they get that. And then every month, they are getting an email with the newsletter or with their neighborhood statistics. So for me, it's the 12 monthly emails, the 4 quarterly pieces of mail, and the 2 calls. That's 18 touches that I know I do for sure. Sometimes I do more, but those are the for sure ones.
Laura, where are you doing your newsletter from?
There are several templates that we have. Mary made something for me, our VA, that I can share with you, Kayla, but really you can use any newsletter template. The content doesn't matter as much as the touch, honestly. I do tend to, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And then your postcards, is that something that you order off of our database, or is that something that you do on your own?
Well, we've been doing it for years through Michael and Mary. That's the of this. A lot of background noise from someone, but there's plenty of mailing services out there that will design a really pretty, if you just tell them what you want. The name of the one that I'm using right now is escaping me, but I know we have that option through Brevity.
Okay, awesome. We'll talk about it later. I just wanted to touch on that.
It doesn't have to be a super expensive touch. But you have several choices, and I am not the person to go to for those sources because I don't do any of this myself. I just say, this is what I want to see go out, and Mary makes it happen. So uh,
So would you say sending a market report every 2 weeks is a little excess? Like maybe I should move it to a month. Like I have a lot of my past clients and just people that want to know their the market report in their area. I have it set up for 2 weeks. Is that too much, or should I be doing monthly?
well, I just think that if they just bought the house, or if maybe they haven't expressed any interest in selling, every 2 weeks might be a little overkill. But if there's someone who raised their hand and said, I might be moving soon, I think 2 weeks is perfect. So make that distinction for your clients, I guess.
Laura, two other key points I use, or two key times I use to make touches, is around homestead exemption time and tax protest time.
Yeah, there's something that we talk a lot about in our team, and it's coming from contribution. And I think that specifically applies to your sphere of influence and your circle. Is you come from contribution. The seeds that you plant when you do something of service to them will have major effects. Judy just went out of her way this week. She actually attended a protest hearing with one of her clients because she didn't feel confident with that. How many brownie points do you think she got for that? I mean, that person is going to be bragging about her. Does your realtor go to your tax protest hearings with you? And yes, it was an hour of her time. And yes, it was probably 20 minutes of her running comps for this client. But this is a client that will send her everyone that she can think of. So we love on our sphere of influence. We touch them systematically. Don't make the mistake I made early in my career, and that was assuming that because they knew me, they were going to work with me as their realtor. I'm going to throw something a little more sciencey your way, but your brain only has a very limited amount of space where people hold information of different vendors. If I were to ask you, Sharon, how many doctors do you know? You probably know a ton of them, and yet you would probably only remember your family doctor, or maybe if you have a brother or sister who's a doctor, you would remember that. So we don't store a bunch of names of people that do different things. And it's the same for us. They probably know 20 other realtors. It is our job to touch them systematically and consistently so that their brain connects real estate with you and not the other 20. That's why we do those touches, so that we can gain mind share in their brains. What's going through your heads as we talk through this?
I think one thing that I get like personally hung up on is having a perfect plan. And it's always just about like do something versus nothing. Like if you do 18 touches versus 33 touches, you're making progress. If you do 10 versus 0, you're making progress. So I think it's just a matter of not like feeling like you have to have everything in place always. It's just doing something.
Yeah, and it has taken me 12 years to develop the 18 touches that I do now to look as semi-professional as they do. But there was a point in time where my touches consisted of texting people and calling them. Like that was all I did. And not because I couldn't do the other stuff, or I personally am not organized enough to sit down and come up with a plan and then see it all the way through. I didn't have the support I have now back then. And so I did what worked for me, which was I always had my phone on me, and I always had my list of contacts in my phone. For me, if you're a super high D behavioral style and you're not going to take the time to go in and log into your database and check on the auto plan or whatever, at least have them in your list of contacts in your phone, so that when you're waiting in the lobby of the doctor, you can make some touches to your sphere. Hey, think about you. How's the new house? I saw that you were putting in a new porch. How's that coming along? Can I connect you with anyone to help with the construction process? Always tie it to contribution. Someone said imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Absolutely. I always said I'm a completionist, not a perfectionist.
I want to chime in with something I did yesterday. If you guys were on the Texas Power Up, I want to say last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, I mentioned doing equity reports for my past clients, and I emailed those. But then I also did Popeyes this last couple weeks, and I still have some more to do, but because there's a lot of past clients. But I've just texted them when I'm on my way. I'm like, hey, do you happen to be home? And they say yes or no. And probably half of them are home right now because of working from home. I'm like, great, I'm going to be by there in 10 minutes to drop off a present. And they're like, okay, cool. That gives them enough time to, like, get dressed and expect you to be at the door. And then I normally chat with them. And I've had one of those equity reports in Popeyes. He was like, oh, actually, I do want to buy new construction February 2022. I was like, well, we got to get on that now. Those houses are already selling. And he's literally going to drop off the deposit on new construction. Like, I think he might have even done it yesterday for like $585 price point, with just following up with that. So it was super successful yesterday. I talked, with so many clients face to face. I'm not a phone talker. I think, like, I'm 35. So, like, I think a lot of my peers and stuff we're not phone talkers, we're texters. So it is hard for me to pick up the phone. It seems very weird and disingenuous for me, but we're social and I do like talking to them. So by just showing up and, like, literally having a face to face, I'm still having that connection. I'm just not picking up the phone. So that's also a good alternative. I think if people are afraid of picking up the phone, just show up with some item of value.
I absolutely love that, because it's not just the cutesy little gift, even though you might add some of that. There is actual value in the equity report, and I guarantee you, no one else or very few people are doing this. I would say out of all the realtors in your area, 85% are not doing something like this. So you're definitely in the 15% that's doing something different, and you're taking the time to actually go deliver it in person. So I absolutely love that. We might actually talk about that to implement in our regular touches here. So thank you for that. What else is going through your heads?
Laura, I just wanted to share about my client who I recently picked up. He's been doing my nails for 10 years. And I'm a pretty, I'm not very, very new, but I'm newer than a lot of the other agents. And he knew I was getting my license. And ever since I did, I put him in my database. I'd go in there every 2 weeks and I'd just be like, hey, Michael, when are you going to buy a house for me? When are y'all moving? And, I would send him reports on his house. And just last week, he gave me a call. I mean, we put in a cash offer on a $350,000 home. And I mean, I'm sure he's met thousands of real estate agents doing nails. And I think because I consistently kept talking to him about real estate and kept going in and just talking to him about it, that I showed interest in it. And sure enough, he called me and we, like I said, we made a cash offer. Our offer was accepted and, he's moving in. So I think it is very important that we keep on top of our database. And like we've talked about it before in our meetings, I mean, a lot of what we do with the Ben Kinney team sets us apart from other real estate agents because we have a lot of support. We have the buyer consultation. We have all these things that we can use. And so I just feel like he has probably met, or he probably does, 50 other real estate agents' nails. But because I consistently talked to him about it and consistently stayed on top of it, he chose me. So I'm grateful for that. And it's, it works.
Yeah, this is where the consistency and the systematically comes into place. That's why I put so much emphasis in those two words, systematically and consistently. You build mind share in the brain of the people that you know. Women, gosh, we do so many things. We get our nails done, we get facials, we do our hair, we get massages, we get we go shopping for new clothes, jewelry. We do so many things. I think just in our personal care, we probably meet 10 to 12 different service providers that could be people in our database. Here's something else I want you to think and change your mindset around, guys. Every person that you come in contact with is a potential client. Every single person. They either own a house and at some point they're going to want to sell it or need to sell it, or they're going to want to add to their portfolio and they're going to want to invest, or they're renting and then it is your job to help them see the light and help them make the connection of they're throwing their money away and they should be thinking of buying their first home. So people either own a house that they're going to need to sell or they don't and they're going to need one. Absolutely everyone that you come across will be a potential client. Okay, it is 9:07. It was my goal to finish by 9:15. So I will take some ahas and some gratitudes and then we'll call it a day. I hope today was helpful to you guys.
To piggyback on a aha that Kayla said, because it was something big for me when I first started too, was her nail person had known a bunch of realtors and she was newer. But I mean, the same thing, like we all go to the same school, and that's one thing I've kind of kept in mind. And like even being a new agent, because my second contract station and brought up something, and then those clients ended up buying a $700,000+ house, letting me sell a $400,000+ house, then buying a $1.8 million house, and then selling an over $800,000 house. And it was 1 month after I got licensed. So just stay consistent, let everybody know, and that you went to the same school everybody else did. So even if you're a new agent, like don't be afraid to tell people you're in real estate.
Absolutely. Thank you, Judy. Any other ahas or gratitudes today?
Hey, Laura, I'm grateful for the topic that you shared and shared your expertise on today. Kind of ironically, most people I've found, they're the most nervous about reaching out to their friends, family, people that they know, the attendant at the gas station, their nail person. In reality, those are the people that will help you the most if you just ask. You just have to consistently bring value and ask them. So I'm glad you brought this up, because first, right off the bat, you don't even get through the front door without those 200 people. And yet, if everyone followed the model as much as possible for those 200 people, they'd start off a lot faster and get over that initial. They're the ones that want to help you, and there's a reason they're in your phone already and on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm glad you talked about this today. It's super awesome. I had a lot of notes. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and even if you didn't start out with 200 names and you started with all the cold, hard business, eventually you will want to build a database so that you have repeat business. That's the way this gets easier. It doesn't get easier by hustling every single year the same way. It gets easier by having a system and a model to follow.
Yeah, thanks so much, Laura. This was such a good reminder that every person we come in contact with is so, so important. Don't let those moments slip by when you're in conversation with them. I know sometimes you feel like you don't know the person well enough to start kind of digging and asking their real estate plans, but some things like I found that breaks the ice well is kind of saying, oh, and by the way, where do you live again? I don't know. Are you north? Are you south? That when you start kind of generalizing, then they start opening up. Oh yeah, I'm north. Oh great. Yeah, you guys have a house up there? You guys renting? How long you guys been up there? So just coming from curiosity, think of it like talking to a friend of yours, a good friend, and kind of catching up with them and seeing how everything's going. So don't make it feel so what are your real estate plans for the next year? That can be forward sometimes. And that's a good question. There's definitely plenty of times to use that when you're on the phone and making dials, but when you're in person, just kind of opening them up to first, especially if you feel like they're a reserved person and they don't typically, maybe it's another parent in the classroom or someone you've met at the gym a few times, just kind of, oh yeah, by the way, where are you at again? Are you close by? Are you guys owning? Do you rent? But everyone, like Laura said, everybody is a potential client. They all have to lay their head down somewhere at nighttime. And if it's not them, it's going to be someone they know, a mother, a brother, father, whoever. So thank you for reminding us that everyone we touch and meet are just gold, honestly.
You're most welcome. Anyone else have any ahas? If there are no other ahas or gratitudes, I will leave you with one last thought. Master the art of asking questions, and you can ask anything you want. And as long as you tie it to a benefit to them, people will open up and give you all the information that you need in order to connect with them. Right now, I'm reading a book. It's called The Art of Seduction. And I know it's a weird book, but it's a weird title, but it is such an informative book on connecting with people and how to get people to open up to you. So learn the art of asking questions. You will get people talking about anything you want if you just make them feel important and listened to. All right. That is all I've got, guys. If you don't have anything else to share, any other gratitudes or ahas or thoughts, questions, we will end it at that. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Laura.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.